Okay, it's 10 o'clock and it's the very first session of Rep Fest. We are so honored that you chose your first session today to be the art of travel. Over the next 2 days, you have almost 100 sessions of content. You know, you can pop in and out. Few housekeeping rules. Number one, let's turn off our cell phones. Number two, if you want to speak, have a shout out, just put a message in the chat and I will at the end have a Q&A session with the Art of Travel. Each session goes for about 25, 29 minutes. So this way you can pop off and get onto another session. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cheryl Bennett, and I am the co-president of Bennett Mercado Hospitality. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Marie Palad from the Art of Travel, our Japanese DMC company. Marie, it's all you.
Thanks, Cheryl. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here to kick off one of the first Rep Fest sessions with just a little bit of Japanese spirituality and Zen to start the day off right and in a positive way. So for those of you who don't know me, as Cheryl said, I'm Marie from the Art of Travel. We're a destination management company that focus on all of Japan. And together with our partner Wonder Trunk & Co., we also work on developing and promoting lesser known Japan destinations in order to support local communities across the country. So with that in mind, today I wanted to introduce you to a really unique and special experience in Japan that I think most people do not know about yet. And that is the opportunity to train with Yamabushi monks. So to give you just a little bit of background about where that takes place and who the Yamabushi monks are, I will take you with me to Yamagata. So here you can see on the map, Yamagata is on Japan's upper coast from Tokyo. It's a fairly large prefecture in Japan's northern Tohoku region. And what's really interesting about Yamagata in terms of the nature is that you basically have ski resorts and beaches in a very small area. So because of that, as you can imagine, it is really one of those places that's wonderful in any season. And as a fun fact, it also exports about 70% of Japan's cherries, so it's an important agricultural region as well. Now, there are two access points to Yamagata. Yamagata City to the east of the prefecture and Tsuruoka City to the west of the prefecture. Both of these cities are accessible by direct flight from Tokyo in just 60 minutes. And then Yamagata City is also accessible by Shinkansen from Tokyo. So Yamagata has a lot of interesting things to do and see. I've highlighted a few of our recommendations for the eastern part of the prefecture. It's a really great place with some nice onsen areas for travelers who are interested in experiencing that Japanese hot spring culture. But today I really want to focus on the region of Shonai to the west of the prefecture, since this is the home of the Yamabushi, which is the subject of today's talk. Now, Shonai has a lot to offer in terms of culture, nature, and gastronomy. I've listed some of our highlights and recommendations here, but I think that really one of the biggest draws of the region is definitely going to be the Dewa Sanzan Mountains, or the three holy mountains of Dewa. This is really the realm of the Yamabushi. These are mountains that are sacred and holy to the Yamabushi, and each mountain has a special significance. So Mount Haguro, that is the mountain that signifies birth and the present world and all of our worldly desires. Mount Gasan symbolizes death and the afterlife, and then Mount Yudono-san symbolizes rebirth, which is a concept that's very important to the Yamabushi. So I've told you where we can find Yamabushi in the Dewa Sanzan Mountains, but I have not yet told you who the Yamabushi are. We actually have a Yamabushi monk with us today who will probably do a way better job at explaining this in detail. But just to give you a very, very simple explanation, Yamabushi are mountain priests in the Dewa Sanzan Mountains They've been around for almost 1,500 years, and they practice a religion called Shugendo, which is really a unique blend of lots of different beliefs and religions. But one thing that's very important to the Yamabushi is the respect for nature and for the mountains. And so if travelers are interested in experiencing a bit of this Yamabushi culture, there's kind of two ways that they can do this. The first is really just if they want to add it as kind of more of a sightseeing opportunity in a kind of standard Japan itinerary, go to Tokyo, Kyoto, and then go to Yamagata and kind of do it that way. Or if they're looking to experience something a little bit deeper, something that's probably going to be the highlight of the trip and something a bit more transformative, they could also take part in a Yamabushi training, which is something that we'll introduce very shortly. So in terms of sightseeing experiences, these are kind of a few great activities that travelers can do around Dewa Sanzan. Probably the most interesting and unique is just hiking in the Holy Mountains with a Yamabushi monk, an English-speaking Yamabushi monk, who can kind of explain a little bit about the area, about Yamabushi culture. So this is a way to learn a bit more about this area without the same commitment that you would have if you were taking part in a formal Yamabushi training. And then there are also some other more traditional Zen activities, like for example, Kyudo practice, which is a traditional archery martial art, or accompanying monks in their daily Zen practice of meditation, calligraphy, and so on in a temple. And then finally, also some activities centered around the mountains themselves. So for example, foraging for different mountain vegetables and things in the mountains, and then learning how to cook with them. If travelers are coming just for sightseeing, there is an excellent hotel in Tsurioka, which is located in the middle of some rice fields. As you can see from the pictures, the rooms themselves are pretty simple, to be honest, but I think that the amazing views and also the really interesting design of the hotel definitely make it worth a stop for 1 or 2 nights to explore the region. Now, if you have travelers who are looking for a more transformative experience, they can also opt to actually go through the traditional Yamabushi training. And there's kind of a range of trainings that they can do. They can opt for the 1-day basic training, or they could go up to the 4-day very full-on training. When we talk about these trainings, the tricky thing is that we're not meant to reveal too much about the training itself. But today we've just tried to give you a little bit of insight into what that looks like and kind of the feeling around it in the video that we'll present shortly. But one thing that's interesting to know is that it's basically you cannot speak for the entire training except for one word. There's no technology. So it's really a chance to get back to yourself and back to nature, as the Yamabushi say. One thing I did want to know after showing you that beautiful hotel in the rice paddy is that the kind of circumstances and accommodations for the training themselves are very comfortable and clean, but just a little bit more basic. So when you do the training, you stay at a temple lodge and you basically stay in the same room as other participants of the same gender, which is just a simple tatami room like the one shown here. So that's just something to be aware of. It has to be for the right kind of traveler. But that, I think, is enough about what I can say about it. There are people who can explain all of this much better than me, actual Yamabushi monks. So I just want to introduce you to some of our key Yamabushi partners. Firstly, Master Hoshino, who supervises all of the programs. He's actually a 13th generation Yamabushi priest. He's very committed to keeping Yamabushi traditions alive, but he also really wants to make them relevant to our modern day lives. And surprisingly, he's also a very prolific Facebook poster. You can follow him on Facebook. He posts some very interesting insights on there. Then we have Takehiro Kato, who we all call Tak. He's also a Yamabushi and also the person who runs the Yamabushi programs. You'll meet him in our video today, and then he's going to join us after the video for a Q&A session. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And then finally, we have Tak's partner, Tim, who's originally from New Zealand, but somehow found himself becoming a Yamabushi in the middle of Japan. You'll hear Tim's voice in the video. He's the one who recorded the voiceover, and he really wanted to be here, but he's actually in New Zealand right now, so it's like 2 a.m. for him, I think. So he couldn't join, but if you're interested in learning more about him and his journey, you can check out his YouTube where he explains kind of what his life looks like and how he actually became a Yamabushi. So that's enough from me. We're going to give you a little taste of what the Yamabushi training looks like, and then Tak is going to perform a traditional blessing for us all attending RepFest. So I'm going to pass it over to Cheryl, who is hopefully going to play that video for us.
Hello everyone, I'm Tak, a Master Yamabushi, Japanese mountain priest, and the producer of Yamabushi programs. Today, with my senior partner, Yamabushi, Master Hayasaka, I am going to climb on the Dewa-sanzan, the 3 sacred mountains of Dewa. We are going to perform a chant for all of you participating in the RepFest about the business success and your health, also, and those suffering due to the COVID pandemic all over the world. Okay, I will begin.
Tak starts his pilgrimage at Daishimbo, a 350-year-old Shukubo pilgrim lodge, where Yamabushi monks stay throughout their training. Here, he transitions from an everyday businessman to a mountain monk. Tak changes into his shiro shozoku, the white clothing of the Yamabushi. These robes are reminiscent of those traditionally used to shroud the dead in Japan. Tak and his master pray for good luck and protection during the day's training. They blow conch shells to let the gods know they are here.
ではこれより浜田さん塗装業に行きます。ゲタモーパーチーゲタモー
Tak's master said to him, Otachi, we are leaving, to which Tak responds, Uketamo, a word and concept that is very important to the Yamabushi way. Uketamo signifies acceptance with an open heart. From this point on, outside of praying and chanting, Tak can only speak the word Uketamo. Tak walks through the large red gates called Zuishimon, symbolizing the start of the journey up Mount Haguro. The hike actually begins with a downhill path that is meant to represent a descent into hell. At the lowest point of the hike, there is the 1,000-year-old Jijisugi grandfather cedar, which is thought to be a holy tree. So Tak and his master stop to pay their respects. Nearby is Mount Haguro's 5-story pagoda. This 650-year-old national treasure stands in harmony with the trees around it. Mount Haguro's 5-story pagoda is the northernmost in Japan and is one of 2 in Tsuruoka City, one of the only cities in Japan to have more than one. Tak and his master will stop to pray here. They then begin their ascent to the top of Mount Haguro. It usually takes about 90 minutes to reach the top. The full Yamabushi training requires hiking all 3 of the Dewa-Sanzan mountains, Mount Haguro, Mount Gassan, and Mount Yudono, said to represent birth, death, and rebirth respectively. As the mountain representing birth, Mount Haguro is usually the first to be ascended. Tak and his master stop to inspect a torii gate. Yamabushi are guardians of the mountain, and as such, their role includes protecting the area's nature and structures. Yamabushi monks are treated with great respect here, as they are seen to be protectors of nature and often pray for the health of everyone in the region and beyond. Tak and his master have reached the top. They go through the final gate that leads to the main shrine, Dewa-Sanzan Shrine. This is where Tak performed the 2-minute blessing for us all today.
From now on, we will chant to appease the spirit of those who died due to COVID all over the world, health for those working for the pandemic, and that the pandemic itself will subside, world peace, no war, and lastly, health and business success for those participating in this event, you. We will send these wishes to the deity and the spirit of Dewa-Sanzan here. Let's just begin.
Close your eyes and let the chanting wash over you, or keep watching for some more scenes from the day's training.
山山の神あやにあやにくすしくな不動山山の神の御前を見祭るあやにあやにくすしくな不動山。
All right, so I hope that that gives a little bit more of an idea of the kind of things that a traveler would do as part of the training. And then we actually have Tak, who was in the video, here with us today. Tak, I don't know if, there you go.
Here you go.
Hi, thank you so much for joining
Hi.
us.
Thank you for, yep, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, you told me that you really wanted to blow your conch shell, but you're not allowed to.
Usually, when we start something as a Yamabushi, we start with blowing conch. However, it's 11 p.m. in my house. I don't want to wake my family up right now, so I cannot do that. Anyway.
That's very understandable. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I should say, if anyone has any tech questions for Tak, please leave them in the chat and we will ask him. I do have a few questions for you myself. The first one is pretty much the most basic question. I was wondering if you could tell us, what is Yamabushi?
Well, it's a very common question to us, since Yamabushi is actually not famous yet. So if I were to give a simple explanation, Yamabushi is the people, actually we translate it into Japanese priest or Japanese mountain monk, who trek in the mountains and pray for all living beings. However, specifically, Yamabushi belongs to a specific Japanese religion called Shugendo. Shugendo is a fusion of many religions, taking different parts from Shintoism, Buddhism, Taoism, animism, and so on. That's the Yamabushi.
Interesting.
Elena?
Marie,
yeah.
Marie, we have a question from the audience.
Okay.
Tak, you mentioned that those undergoing training say in a shared temple lodge in gender divided rooms. Are married couples traveling together separated during the process?
It's really good question, actually. We have experienced to host these kind of families or couples. It depends. If they clients or participants would like to join our program in private, that could be arrangeable together in the same room. However, if they will join our set already, the programs which is already set up for others as well, then couples are also divided. We request that since the setting of the training is individual transformation. I hope it makes sense or understandable for the person question.
Great, thank you, Tak. We have two more questions came in, one from Julie. Are we able to send prayer requests in advance? Or do you ask them when they're there?
Yes, yeah.
Great, that was an easy one to answer.
Yes.
Okay, here's another question. Would the training be suitable for clients of all ages, or is it more suitable for younger clients?
It's also depends. Actually, from our past experience, we hosted from the youngest was teenage, like 16, with their parents, and the most oldest person was, I assume, 72 or something, but they are all physically very fitted. That is the request.
So to add on, to that, a related question is, so how strenuous is the hike? Is it a basic hike, or do you have to be physically fit? Because some of the advisors on this call have clients that are over the age of 65.
It's also a good question. For the it also depends on our program and the client's needs. We can arrange the, as Mary said, we have two current moment. We provide two types of programs, basic and masters. In the master's program, 4 days program, we take our participants to 2,000 meter height mountains. So in case they need people, we request at least they get used to already about the hiking on the mountains, but not necessary to please. Yeah, I need to explain this at the beginning. Our training is not physical training at all. So if we have a group, we adjust the most, I would say, not really least not trained person. So we're not gonna push too much to train in physically, but the most important thing is focusing on the mental training. But the we need to request the if people don't get used to walk or hike in the mountains like 400 meter height, they might be problem in the training. Making sense?
Yes.
So I think just because in terms of the timing, I'm aware that we're going to be cut off soon. So if all people have other questions for Tak, please contact him on the RepFest platform and he can respond. I did just want to ask you to finish, Tak, if we don't get cut off, just if you had any advice for us, from your Yamabushi wisdom about overcoming these kind of challenging and strange times.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Marie. It's a really good question asking. I would suggest the philosophy of Yamabushi of Uketamo, as we explained in the video, especially during this time. We translate Uketamo as I accept. We are only allowed to say this one phrase during our training, no matter the request or hesitation we may feel during the training. We just need to say uketamo, which will help us concentrate in the here and now to not worry about the consequence of the next step. It will help us sharpen our senses and strengthen our spirit without having to use a brain. Under such uncertain times, this idea may be very practical to retrieve our original sense of wonder. Uketamo.
Thank you so much, Tak. Thanks everyone for participating. I think that's all the time we have. Thank you, Cheryl, for hosting this wonderful session.
Thank you very much, Cheryl.
It's my pleasure, and thank you to all the attendees. Now to the next session.
To the next session. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tak.
Bye-bye.